The space station called Helix 7 floated in the darkness between stars. It was home to the Galactic Academy of Studies, a famous school where young beings from many worlds came to learn. The station was huge, with halls made of metal and glass, and windows that showed the endless black sky filled with distant suns. Many strange creatures walked these halls. Some had scales, some had fur, some had no solid form at all, but none of them were quite like the human who arrived on a cold morning in the station's artificial spring. His name was Park. He was 23 years old with black hair cut short and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. He was not tall by human standards, and he was certainly not impressive by galactic standards. He had no claws, no sharp teeth, no armor on his skin. He looked soft and breakable, like something that should not survive in a dangerous universe. The other students watched him with curiosity when he first arrived. A group of creatures covered in thick brown fur with 4 legs and 2 arms whispered to each other as he passed. "That is a human," one of them said, "from the new world they found." "It looks weak," another replied. "How does it survive?" Heard them. His ears were not as sharp as theirs, but he was close enough. He did not react. He simply kept walking, following the signs to the registration office. The Academy had accepted him as part of a cultural exchange program. Humans were new to the galactic community. Their planet Earth had only been discovered 15 years ago. They were considered primitive by most standards. Their technology was basic. Their bodies were fragile. They were short. But they were curious, and curiosity was valued at the Academy. His first week was difficult. The food in the cafeteria was strange. Some of it moved on the plate. Some of it glowed. He learned quickly which items would make him sick and which ones were safe. He kept a small notebook where he wrote down everything he learned. His roommate was unnamed, was young for his species, with golden fur and large black eyes. He was friendly but confused by almost everything did. "Why do you not sleep?" asked one night. It was the 3rd night in a row that had stayed awake past midnight, reading on his tablet. "I sleep," said, "just not as much as you." "But you need rest. Your body is," struggled for the right word, "soft, fragile, you should sleep more." Smiled. It was a small smile, polite but distant. "Humans can go a long time without sleep if we need to. It is one of the few things we are good at." This was true. Back on Earth, humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They could not run fast like a cheetah or fight hard like a bear, but they could keep going. They could walk and run for hours, for days, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They could stay awake when other creatures needed to rest. They could survive injuries that would kill other animals. But did not know this. To him was just a strange, soft creature who did not sleep enough. Classes began on the 2nd week. Attended lectures on galactic history, communication, and basic xenobiology. He sat in the back of every classroom, watching and listening more than speaking. The other students did not pay much attention to him. He was not the in any class. The crystalline beings called could solve complex math problems in seconds. The aquatic delphine had perfect memory and could recall every word from every lecture. Compared to them, seemed ordinary. But there was one professor who noticed something different about the human. Her name was. She was also human, a who had come to the station 2 years earlier. She was in her 40s, with gray streaks in her black hair and sharp eyes behind thin glasses. She taught a class on predator behavior and was one of her students. She watched him during lectures. He never took notes, but he remembered everything she said. His eyes tracked her movements with a focus that most humans did not show. When she discussed dangerous creatures, the apex predators of distant worlds, his attention became even sharper. One day after class, she asked him to stay behind. "You were military," she said. It was not a question. His expression did not change. "Yes, I was." "What branch?" "Special operations, reconnaissance." Nodded slowly. That explained many things. The way he moved, always aware of his surroundings. The way he positioned himself near exits. The way he watched people like he was memorizing their patterns. "Why did you leave?" she asked. "Medical discharge," he said. "I was injured. They said I could not serve anymore." He did not offer more details and did not ask. She had learned to respect the silences of soldiers. "The other students think you are weak," she said, "because you are human, because you have no natural weapons." "I know. Does that bother you?" Considered the question. Outside the window, a ship passed by, its lights blinking against the dark sky. "No," he said finally. "Let them think what they want. It does not matter what they believe. It only matters what is true." Smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had given a student in a long time. "Be careful here," she said. "This place is full of creatures that think they understand predators. Most of them have never met a real one." Met her eyes. For just a moment, something old and patient looked back at her. Something that had been watching and waiting for a very long time. "Neither have they," he said quietly. Then he bowed politely and left the room, walking back into the crowded halls of the academy, just another unremarkable student among hundreds of others. But stood by the window for a long time after he was gone, thinking about the strange and terrifying creatures called humans. Deep inside the space station, far from the classrooms and dormitories, there was a place that students spoke about in whispers. The official name was Research Wing 7, but everyone called it the Vault of Terrors. It was a collection of the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. Each one was kept in a special cage with thick walls and powerful energy barriers. Armed guards walked the halls at all times. Warning signs covered every door. Only advanced students and certified researchers were allowed inside. Had heard stories about the vault since his first week at the academy. Students talked about the creatures kept there like they were monsters from old legends. There was a shade worm that could pass through solid walls. There was a mind leech that could control other beings with its thoughts. There was a burning moth with wings made of living fire. But the creature that everyone feared most was the learned about the in his xenobiology textbook. He read the entry 3 times, memorizing every detail. There was an apex predator from a world called 5. It stood 3 meters tall at the shoulder and had 6 limbs, each ending in curved claws as long as human fingers. Its body was a strange mix of cat and lizard, covered in dark scales that could change color to match its surroundings. Its mouth could open wide enough to swallow a human whole, revealing 3 rows of teeth like broken glass. But the most dangerous thing about the was its light. Along its sides and neck, the creature had patches of skin that could glow with different colors. These lights moved in patterns that affected the minds of other beings. If you looked at the lights too long, your body would freeze. Your thoughts would slow. You would stand perfectly still while the walked toward you and opened its terrible mouth. The textbook said that entire colonies had been abandoned because of a single. Ships had been lost. Armies had failed. The creature was nearly impossible to kill and even harder to capture. The one in Research Wing 7 had been caught 8 years ago. It had killed 14 soldiers and 3 scientists during its capture. Now it lived in the strongest cage ever built, surrounded by barriers that could stop a starship. Wanted to see it. He did not have to wait long. His advanced xenobiology class was scheduled to visit the vault as part of their studies. The professor, a tall creature named with 6 arms and compound eyes, led them through the security checkpoints and into the observation theater. The theater was built above the A's enclosure. 37 students sat in rows of seats that looked down through thick, transparent walls. Below them, in a space the size of a small stadium, the creature waited. It was bigger than had expected. Even lying down, it was massive. Its scales were dark gray, almost black, with hints of purple where the light touched them. Its eyes were closed but could see the slow rise and fall of its breathing. "Beautiful," he whispered. Beside him, a human girl named Myra shook her head. "Beautiful. That thing is terrifying." Myra was a linguist, a student who studied alien languages. She was smart and kind, but she was also nervous about almost everything. Her hands were shaking as she looked at the creature below. "It is both," said. "Most dangerous things are." Professor began the lecture. His voice was calm and educational as he explained the A's biology. He talked about its hunting methods, its intelligence, its incredible speed. He pointed out the light patches on its body, which were currently dim and inactive. "The does not chase its prey," explained. "It does not need to. It simply waits for prey to come close, activates its bioluminescent patterns, and the prey freezes. Then it walks forward and eats." A student raised a crystalline hand. "Has anyone ever resisted the light patterns?" "No," said. "The effect works on all known species. It targets a primitive part of the brain that exists in almost every evolved creature. Fear. That makes you feel fear so strong that you cannot move." Watch the creature below. It had opened one eye, a golden eye with a slit pupil like a cat. It seemed to be looking up at the students, watching them watch it. "How thick are the barriers?" another student asked. "3 layers," said proudly. "Each one strong enough to stop military weapons, and there are armed guards at every exit. The creature cannot escape. You are perfectly safe." As if to prove his point, Thoa stood up slowly. It stretched like a giant cat, its muscles moving under its scales. Then it walked to the edge of its enclosure and looked up at the observation theater. Several students moved back in their seats. Myra grabbed his arm without thinking, but did not move. He sat perfectly still, watching the creature with the same calm attention he had shown since arriving at the academy. The A's light patches flickered once-twice, a soft glow, almost like a question. Then a sound filled the room, a loud, sharp alarm that made everyone jump. Red lights began flashing on the walls. A mechanical voice spoke from hidden speakers. "Warning, containment failure detected. Warning, containment failure detected." Below, the energy barriers around the A's enclosure flickered like candles in wind. And then they went dark. Professor's compound eyes went wide with horror. His 6 arms spread in panic. "Everyone out," he screamed. "Everyone out now." But it was already too late. The air was moving, and it was faster than anything that large had any right to be. The monster was free. Though it jumped. One moment it was at the bottom of its enclosure. The next moment it was in the air, flying upward with its 6 legs spread wide. It hit the transparent wall of the observation theater, and the wall exploded into 1,000 pieces. Glass and metal flew everywhere. Students screamed. Bodies fell over seats as everyone tried to run at the same time. The creature landed in the middle of the theater, its claws digging deep into the floor. It was even bigger up close, a mountain of muscle and scale and death. Its golden eyes moved from student to student, choosing which one to kill first. Grabbed Myra and pulled her down behind a row of seats. "Stay low," he said. His voice was quiet and calm, like he was talking about the weather. "Do not run, do not make noise." "We have to get out," Myra whispered. Tears were running down her face. "The exits are blocked, look." She looked. He was right. Heavy metal doors were slowly closing over the exits, emergency barriers designed to contain dangerous creatures. But they moved too slowly. They would take another minute to close completely, and in that minute it would kill them all. Around them, chaos continued. A student tried to run for the exit. The A's head snapped toward the movement. Its light patches blazed to life, glowing with swirling colors of blue and purple and green. The froze mid-step. Its fur stood straight up. Its eyes went wide and empty. It stood perfectly still as though it walked toward it. "No," Myra whispered. "No, no, no." but was not watching he was watching studying it, learning it. The creature's lights were pulsing in a specific pattern. The pattern changed when it moved. It changed again when another student screamed. Though was confused, realized there were too many potential targets, too much movement, too much noise. It did not know what to hunt first. Though reached the frozen and opened its mouth. 3 rows of teeth gleamed in the emergency lights, but before it could bite, a student threw something at it. A tablet spinning through the air. The tablet bounced off the A's scales harmlessly, but the creature turned toward the new movement. The freed from the light pattern, collapsed to the ground and began crawling away. The student was not so lucky. The A's lights caught her immediately. She turned to crystal statue, frozen in the middle of the theater. More students were running now. Some made it to the exits before the barriers closed. Others were not fast enough. Counted quickly. 23 students were still trapped inside with the creature. 7 of them were already frozen by its lights. Professor was screaming into a communication device, calling for security. But security would take time. They had minutes at best, seconds at worst. "We need to move," Myra said. "Maybe we can reach the side door before." "No," put a hand on her shoulder. "If we move, it will see us. If it sees us, it will use its lights. If it uses its lights, we die." "Then what do we do?" Did not answer immediately. He was thinking. His mind was working through the problem like a soldier planning a mission. Though was a predator, all predators followed rules. They hunted things that moved. They attacked things that ran. They chased things that were afraid. But what happened when something did not run? What happened when something was not afraid? Thought about Earth. He thought about the old stories his grandmother had told him when he was young. Stories about humans and the animals they had lived with for thousands of years. Wolves, bears, lions, tigers. Humans had no claws, no fangs, no armor, but they had survived alongside the greatest predators on their planet. More than survived. They had made friends with them. They had tamed them. They had ridden them into battle and slept beside them at night. How? Not by running, not by fighting, by understanding, by speaking a language that predators understood. "Stay here," said quietly. "Do not move, do not make any sound." Myra's eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" "Something stupid." He stood up. The movement caught the A's attention immediately. Its massive head turned toward him. Its golden eyes locked onto his small human body. Its light patches began to glow, preparing to freeze him like the others. But did not run, he did not scream, he did not show any fear at all. Instead, he stepped out from behind the seats and walked toward the monster. "What are you doing?" Myra screamed. "Stop." Other students were shouting too. Some called him crazy, some called him brave, some just screamed his name. But did not hear them. His entire focus was on the creature in front of him. Though it had stopped moving. Its lights were flickering uncertainly, the patterns unstable. It was confused. This small, soft thing was not acting like prey. It was not running. It was not freezing. It was walking toward it, slow and steady, with eyes that did not look away. Stopped 3 meters from Thoa, close enough to smell its breath, hot and metallic, close enough to see every detail of its scales, close enough to die in a single second if the creature decided to attack. But he did not look at the lights, he looked at its eyes. And he refused to blink. The theater went silent. Everyone was watching, everyone was waiting. Human and monster stood face to face. And neither one looked away. Time seemed to stop. Though stood perfectly still, its massive body like a statue carved from dark stone. Its golden eyes stared down at the human in front of it. Its light patches flickered and pulsed, but the patterns were weak, uncertain. Did not move, he did not blink, he barely breathed. His heart was beating slowly, much slower than it should have been. Any normal person would be terrified. Their heart would be racing, their hands shaking, their minds screaming at them to run, but was not a normal person. He had been trained to control his fear. He had learned to be calm when death was close. And right now, death was very close indeed. The lowered its head until its face was level with his. Hot breath washed over him, carrying the smell of meat and blood. He could see his own reflection in those golden eyes, a tiny human standing in front of a giant monster. The creature made a sound, a low rumble deep in its chest. It was not a growl, not a warning, it was something else. A question, maybe. Understood. I see you, he said softly. His voice was steady and calm. I see what you are. He raised one hand slowly, palm open, showing that he held no weapon. Then he made a sound of his own, a low, rumbling tone from deep in his throat. It was something he had learned long ago, back on Earth, when he was young and spent time with his grandfather in the mountains. His grandfather had taught him about animals, about predators, about the way they communicated without words, body language, eye contact, sounds that meant different things. Fear made you prey, aggression made you a threat, but calmness, steadiness, confidence without challenge, that made you something else entirely. That made you an equal. The A's light patches dimmed. The swirling patterns slowed and faded until they were barely visible. The creature's body, which had been tense and ready to attack, began to relax. Behind, students watched in shock. Myra had her hands over her mouth. Professor's 6 arms hung limp at his sides. No one moved. No one spoke. The tilted its head. It was looking at differently now. Not like prey, not like a threat, like a puzzle it was trying to solve. Took a slow step forward. Then another. He was close enough to touch the creature now, close enough to feel the heat radiating from its scales. I am not afraid of you, he said quietly, and I am not going to run. You know what that means, do you not? They made another sound, lower this time, almost like a purr. It knew. On its home world, though it was the greatest predator, nothing challenged it, nothing stood against it. Every creature either ran or died. But this small being was different. It did not run. It did not show fear. It stood and looked and waited just like a predator would. They had not seen anything like this in many years, not since it was young on its home world when it had encountered others of its own kind, other hunters, other predators. Equals. Something ancient stirred in the creature's mind. A memory from long ago, before it was captured, before it was brought to this cage in the stars. A memory of what it meant to meet another hunter. You did not attack an equal. You did not kill without reason. You showed respect. The A's legs folded beneath it. Slowly, carefully, it lowered its massive body to the floor. It laid its head down on its front legs and looked up at with calm, patient eyes. It was not submitting. It was not surrendering. It was simply acknowledging that this human was not prey. This human was something else. Gasps filled the theater. Someone started crying. Someone else laughed, a high and hysterical sound. Myra stood up slowly, her legs shaking. How? She whispered. How did you do that? Did not turn around. He kept his eyes on the way. I spoke its language, he said simply. The language of predators. But humans are not predators. Everyone says so. We are weak. We are soft. We are both of those things. Allowed himself a small smile. But we are also hunters. We always have been. We just hunt differently. The emergency doors had finished closing, but now they began to open again. Security teams poured into the theater, armed with weapons and sedation equipment. They spread out around ready to fight. But there was no fight. The creature remained on the floor, peaceful and calm, with a small human standing over it like a guardian. The security leader, a large being covered in blue armor, stopped and stared. What happened here? He demanded. Professor stumbled forward. The human, he said, his voice shaking. The human stopped it. I do not know how, I do not understand, but he stopped it. The security leader looked back, his dark eyes calm and steady. It was confused, said. I helped it understand that we were not enemies. That is impossible. It kills everything it sees. Not everything. Looked down at the creature at his feet. It looked back at him, and for just a moment something passed between them. Understanding, recognition, respect. Not predators, said quietly. It does not kill predators. The security leader did not understand. Most people in the room did not understand. But Thea understood. And that was all that mattered. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, everyone was talking about the incident at Helix 7. Videos from the observation theater appeared on every network. They showed a small human standing in front of the most dangerous predator in known space. They showed the creature, the terrible, lying down at his feet like a trained pet. No one could believe it. Many thought the videos were fake. Others thought there was some trick, some hidden technology that had controlled the creature. But the scientists who studied the recordings found no tricks, no technology, just a human and a monster standing face to face. And the monster had backed down. Became famous overnight. He did not want the attention, but he had no choice. Reporters wanted to interview him. Scientists wanted to study him. Military leaders wanted to recruit him. He said no to most of them. I did not do anything special, he told the reporters who managed to reach him. I just did not run. But they did not understand. They could not understand. To them, not running from Oa was impossible. The creature's light patterns made it impossible. Fear was automatic, unstoppable. Except for this human. This soft, small, clawless human who looked at death and did not blink. Professor was asked to explain what had happened. She gave a lecture that was broadcast across dozens of worlds. Humans evolved on a planet filled with predators, she said. Lions, tigers, bears, wolves, sharks, crocodiles. Our world was dangerous and we were weak. We had no natural weapons, no armor. We should have died. We should have been food for stronger creatures. She paused and looked at the audience, thousands of beings from hundreds of species. But we did not die, we survived, we thrived. How? Not by becoming stronger or faster, by becoming smarter, by learning to understand predators, by learning to speak their language. She showed images on the screen behind her. Humans riding horses, humans walking with dogs, humans standing next to wolves, next to lions, next to bears. We did not just survive alongside predators, she continued. We befriended them. We tamed them. We made them part of our families. No other species in the galaxy has this ability. No other species can look a predator in the eye and say, "You and I are the same." The audience was silent. That is what Park did, said. He did not fight he did not run from it. He simply showed it what he was, a hunter, a predator, an equal. And Thue, for the first time in its life, recognized another hunter. The lecture was watched by billions. It changed the way the galaxy saw humans. Before, humans were considered weak and primitive, jokes, prey animals that had somehow stumbled into space. Now they were something else, something that the other species did not fully understand but could not ignore. Predators who did not need claws. Hunters who did not need fangs. Dangerous creatures wearing soft skin and gentle smiles. Back at the academy, life slowly returned to normal. Thea was sedated and moved to a new enclosure, one with stronger barriers and better security. The observation theater was repaired. Classes resumed. But things were different now. The other students no longer looked at with amusement. They looked at him with respect. Some looked at him with fear. His roommate kept a careful distance. I always knew there was something strange about you, said one evening. The way you watched things, the way you moved, I thought I was imagining it. You were not imagining it, said. He was sitting by the window looking out at the stars. Humans are predators, we just hide it well. Why hide it? smiled, but there was something sad in his eyes. Because it scares people. Because the things we can do, the things we have done, are frightening. We learned long ago to keep that part of ourselves hidden, to be friendly, to be harmless, to let other creatures think they are safe. Shivered, and if they are not safe, then we show them what we really are. The door opened and Myra walked in. She had come to visit every day since the incident. At first, thought she was checking on him. Now he knew she was trying to understand him. The is awake, she said. The scientists say it will not eat. It just sits in its cage looking toward the door. They think it is waiting for something. Nodded slowly. It is. For what? He stood up and walked toward the door. For me. He visited the creature every day after that. He would sit outside its new enclosure, and they would come to the barrier and lie down across from him. They would look at each other for hours, saying nothing, speaking only in the silent language of predators. The scientists did not understand, the guards did not understand, but they understood and understood. They were the same, different shapes, different worlds, different lives, but inside where it mattered they were the same. Hunters, predators, equals. Months later, when finished his studies and prepared to return to Earth, he went to see the one last time. He pressed his hand against the barrier, and the creature pressed its massive head against the other side. Goodbye, friend, said quietly. Maybe we will meet again someday. The made a low sound, soft and sad. Its light patches glowed gently, not in the patterns of a hunter, but in something that might have been goodbye. Turned and walked away, back into the halls of the academy, back toward the ship that would take him home. He did not look back. But behind him, in its cage in the stars, Thoa watched him go. And somewhere in its ancient predator's heart, it remembered the small human who had not been afraid. The hunter who spoke its language. The predator who came in peace. The terrifying, wonderful creature called human.